Welcome to the Stranger Conversations podcast, where we explore the lives and lessons of those around us, hidden in plain sight. I'm your host, Tay Jones. Welcome to the Stranger Conversations podcast. Today I'm speaking with Connie Cotter, a faith-forward, joy-driven, certified high-performance coach who guides both men and women in moving from fine to fulfilled. Connie guides professionals through life's biggest transitions through her signature program, the Joy-Filled Life Blueprint, and helps clients rediscover who they are, reignite joy, and design their next chapter with purpose, clarity, and contagious fun. Connie Cotter, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thanks, Tay. I am so excited to be here. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Great, me too. Yeah, so start off a little bit of just getting to know my guests. So, where are you from? Where are you calling in from right now?
I'm calling in right now from just outside of Lafayette, Louisiana. Okay. I live in a very small town. We've only lived here 5 years. So we moved in 2021, January. Prior to that, we were in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
So this is, COVID was we get to work from home. And my husband has always wanted to retire in the South, either Louisiana or North Carolina, where he has relatives, brothers. Yeah. And it just worked out. And so, we're still both working full time, but I feel like I'm on vacation every single day. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I think my wife has always wanted to live in the South. I've lived in the South. Well, Virginia. I call that the South, That's where most of my family is from, Virginia, and my wife's been there, but I always say to her, I'm not sure that you understand just how humid and the bugs. I don't think she understands how many bugs there are exactly in the South, especially down in Louisiana in that
Oh,
that
my
area.
goodness. Yes, you are so, like I said, we came down here in January.
Yeah.
And I was out walking in t-shirt and shorts, and a very kind gentleman's like, ma'am, do you need a ride? And I was like, no, because it was like 60 degrees, for us down here, that's cold. But yeah, they weren't kidding when they said about the heat and the humidity, because in Wisconsin, we had heat and humidity, but nothing like down here. So we still go back up to Wisconsin in the summers.
Yeah. And that's the same thing, because we're in Arizona now. We've lived here for a little over 4 years, and it's the heat is crazy. But it is, like people say, it's a dry heat, so that's always a little bit better. But similar to you, we moved here, I moved here in like November. My family came in September before me. And we walked into a place and we had t-shirt and shorts on, and the guy immediately said, hey, where are you from? And we were like, well, how do you know we don't live here?
We live here.
Yeah. And that was his response. He's like, nobody wears that here in December. Everyone else is in hoodie sweatshirts, in November, December. And to us, it was quite warm. But now we're used to it. 60 degrees, I'm putting sweatshirts on for the most part. So
Same here.
Yeah. So Louisiana, did you have any sort of tie to that before you came down, or is it just because you were thinking, let's go to the South?
My brother-in-law lives about 12 miles from us. So nice. So I'd have a nice little family. But I grew up in a small town in southeastern Minnesota, and growing up in a small town, it's like everybody knew you, what you were doing, who you were with, all the neighbors. Yeah. And wanted to get away from that. But actually now I'm back in that small town, and I love my neighbors. I've met them all. And, so it's kind of like this, when you're young, you want to escape all of that. But now I'm happy to have that. And we all look out for each other. And it's truly awesome down here.
Yeah, I think, the small town feel, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. I think sometimes when you're younger and you're still trying to find yourself, sometimes it can be more of a curse. But I've kind of found, when you're older and you know who you are, that it's not that bad, because you just be yourself, and, you're not doing as many stupid things as sometimes you do. And, and you wish you could escape sometimes when you're growing up, right, and figuring out life and that type of thing.
Exactly.
So you said husband. Do you have kids?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have 2 children. I acquired my children when they were 8 and 12. Okay. So I, with my husband, my daughter lives in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and our son passed away in December of 2021.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that. And
Yeah.
so they
you.
were your stepkids, or was it an adoption
hmm
thing? Okay, so when you
Yep.
guys got
Yep.
married,
They were.
yeah,
Yep. I
yeah,
like to say that my oldest is still living at home. He's 63 and, has expensive hobbies and,
that's right.
those sorts of things. But yeah, he's my biggest kid and he's still at home.
Yep. I think most wives can say that about their husbands, right? Yep.
He's definitely brought me um, to where I am. Like I was very structured and
Hmm.
regimented and planned everything, and he was a just wing it sort of
Yeah.
guy. And we've kind of done this back and
Yep.
forth through our marriage of 23 years, and we're at
Yep.
a nice balance now.
Yeah, I think that's another common story. I think. Well, I think I'm very much like your husband. Hey, we're just gonna do it. I'm not very risk
We're just gonna
averse.
do it.
My wife is definitely more risk averse than me. But but that's good. It's a good balance when you have something like that, because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, yeah, he'd be living in his car, or somewhere, and
Yeah,
you keep him grounded in a life of luxury. Yeah.
yeah. He keeps me. I've always referred to him from the very beginning of our relationship, the calm in my storm,
Yeah.
because I could get really riled up with things, and he's just easygoing. And
Hmm.
we've had some switches where he's more structured and I'm more free flowing, and we're like, what is going on? And so that's when we've done the back and forth thing. But
Right.
yeah, truly blessed.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to get into a little bit of your business, but I mentioned it
Yeah.
a little bit in the intro, but your business seems kind of very built in faith. So I was just curious, how has your faith journey kind of shaped, how you show up for your clients, and guide people to success. I mean, just tell us a little bit about, your faith and how that helps you in your business.
Sure. This is a great question and a story that I love to tell. It goes back to my husband. Um, so I'll back up just a little bit before. It was in 2001, and I was a consultant and traveling a lot, and I didn't have a social life. And unfortunately, the individual who lived above me was murdered. So
Wow.
in May of 2001, I'm like, okay, I need to find a safer place to live. I need to find a local job so I'm not traveling all the time. And then I want to meet my future husband. And so that was in March. In May, I had a new apartment. In June, I had a new job that was local. I actually worked for my husband's organization, and we had our first date in August of 2001.
Wow.
So I was a consultant in town with his organization, and he knew my contract was ending. And I didn't really have much interaction with him. I would see him, of course, around the office. And so he came up to my cubicle and we were talking. And one of the things he said was, the Lord is an important part of my everyday life. And I was like, wow, nobody's ever said that to me, like just out in public.
Yeah.
And he told me that he was divorced with these two children. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And my mother was the secretary treasurer of the Lutheran church where I
Hmm.
grew up. And I was kind of searching to get back into a relationship with God. And our first date, we covered finances, religion, family, not the what's your favorite pizza topping sort of
Right.
conversation, because we were both older. And, he's like, that's fine. I'm Catholic. I'm not going to change. And if you want to stay Lutheran, that's fine. It's the same God. We're on the same team. And he just he answered all my questions. I was on a podcast several weeks ago with a beautiful woman from Minnesota. And if you know anything about the Midwest and the Minnesotas, like the Lutherans, and then the Catholics, it's like this secret thing.
Hmm.
Like you don't know what goes on in a Catholic church, and you don't want to ask because you maybe want to know.
Yeah.
But I was asking all the questions, and it just made sense. I'm like, as our relationship was regressing, I'm like, I don't want to go to two separate churches. So I became Catholic in Easter of 2003. And that's just been a part of our life.
Yeah.
We pray when we're out, and we pray before meals, regardless of where we are. If we're traveling or on vacation, we find churches on Sunday because that's our holy day, or Saturday evening.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was becoming into this coaching business, which is just another, I think it's a divine calling for me, the more I felt called, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then the more I share my faith, it's like more people are sharing their faith. And I think in the world that we're in today, um, having a belief and a faith and a trust in God is really important because we're the minority voice. And
Mm-hmm.
so if I can, I coach all people. If people are not believers in God, if they're not Catholic or whatever, that's perfectly fine. It's just how I show up in the relationships with my clients.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, and rooted, the clients that you do have that do have a faith, a Christian faith, to kind of have that rooted and a cornerstone, and this, like, it's probably a little bit easier, to put some of those lessons forward to them, because they, you're kind of both singing out of the same hymn book, right? I guess,
Exactly. Yes,
to
exactly.
say, yeah.
Yeah, it just ties it in with, I think, some of my clients will talk about the universe, but it's
Mm.
really just having that connection, something bigger than ourselves. You know, um, I've carried a belief for a long time, even before I got into coaching. I think that's one of the things that made me successful as an IT business analyst for so many years and as a consultant was every person has value
Mhm.
to bring to an organization, to bring to this planet. And so many people are just shrugged off because, they seem unapproachable or uncooperative. And I take that piece of information and I just kind of put it in my back pocket. And then I'm just really curious about people. Where are you from? Oh, I see a picture of a beautiful little girl,
Yeah.
granddaughter, daughter, niece, whatever. And just get people talking about, like your podcast here, conversations
Hmm.
with people just to get to know them. And when I can help bring out that value and then they feel seen and heard, then they're more willing to share. And I think I want to just create that ripple effect of people bringing goodness and joy into the world.
Yeah. And so, to guide these professionals that you're working with, I mean, you must have been in the corporate world yourself, right? And it
Yep.
sounded like you said IT, something analyst. I missed it a little bit. IT
Business analyst.
business
Yep.
analyst. What
Yep.
exactly did
Mhm.
you do, and how long did you do that in the corporate environment?
I started my corporate career as a chemist
Really?
and in the pharmaceutical drug development. Yes,
Wow.
in pharmaceutical drug development. Um, I worked in insurance. I worked in retail, entertainment, in that business analysis space. So
Okay.
when I say IT, I am on this side of the screen. I
Yeah.
just work what's on the screen. I'm not a coder, the developer, the guys and gals that make the stuff work.
Yeah.
And so my focus was always on business process improvement. And then, of course, we bring in the technology with the different applications and software systems that are built or purchased to support these business processes. And so this started way back when I was consulting, and then through the different corporate world. And I realized early on that sometimes business teams don't even talk to each other.
Hmm.
So finding that value, what can this person bring and this person bring, and getting these people to talk. And people spend so much time at work. So let's make our processes efficient
Yeah.
and let's have some fun
Yep.
while we're building these processes. So I had toys and Play-Doh and candy and, tried to make these working sessions fun.
Yeah.
And when I was the person that I now coach. So an individual who's looks really successful from the outside. I mean, I was promoted. I was asked to lead key projects. I didn't really look for a job for many, many years. Like someone would leave our company and they'd go to a new organization and they're like, Connie, we have an opening. Do you want to come work over here? I'd be like, sure, sounds fun.
Yeah.
So I call it drifting because that's what I really was doing, drifting from opportunity to opportunity. I had a great marriage. My husband makes me laugh, 2 teenagers with the typical teenager stuff. But something was missing. And like, I couldn't put my finger on it. I was reading books and, all sorts of things. And I literally stumbled into a group coaching session. It was a free group coaching session. And it was called Certified High Performance Coaching. And I didn't really know what that meant. High performance to me meant, fitness and athletics, but I was game to try. And the coach in the 60 minutes asked questions that really got me thinking. It wasn't like the goals. What are your goals for the next 3 weeks? And what are the tasks that you're going to do? It wasn't any like that. It was, what are you most clear about in your life? What are you for certain of? What are you not certain of? And it just opened up this whole, I was like, wow. And it covered everything: finances, relationships, health, career, And I was just like, wow. And so, of course, they offered a call. I signed up for the program. And within 1-2 sessions of working with my own certified high performance coach, I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to become a coach. But that's not where I was thinking my career was going.
And and at this point you were still doing the IT business analytics work. Okay.
Yep. So I continued. I still work with my own high performance coach. I've been working with my own for 6 years now. And so then I got certified in the program. And on day 3 of the certification program, it was like this, my soul, my heart was just so full instead of helping people just at work with their business processes and those operating systems, I now get to help people with their whole life operating systems. And it was just like, zing, this is what I want to be doing with the rest of my life.
Yeah. I'm thinking as you're talking here, it doesn't really sound like you had like the traditional transition from, you kind of found something that you wanted to go do while you were still doing something else. It wasn't like a loss of a job and I got to figure something out type of a transition, but maybe finding a passion and then pursuing that and transitioning out of what you were already doing. It does sound, that's pretty flattering, right? It's an ultimate compliment when people leave and they want to bring you with them. As you were saying, you kind of move to other places. That can be great, but only, I guess, if you really love it. And one of the things that you mentioned, I wrote it down here from your website too, is, living beyond good enough. And it does sound like maybe you had a good enough life until you realized how do you kind of realize, hey, this is great. And actually I have a passion for something else. So is that kind of what you mean by, moving past that and getting, going beyond good enough?
Exactly. Yes. Very much so. And going back again to, messages that I received growing up and, what we have is good enough, and be happy with what you have. Be grateful for what you have. 100% believe that. And yet, as I've been learning more about coaching, I love learning about how the brain works and how, human behavior change. We're meant to strive. Our brains like to be challenged. Our bodies like to be challenged. And so good enough, if you're in good enough, that's okay. Eventually, I'm thinking you're going to start feeling like there's got to be more.
Yeah.
And the more, my Facebook group is Beyond the Good Life, as you mentioned also on my website, is Beyond the Good Life. And so there's nothing wrong with good. And in some areas of your life, you want to stay in that nice comfort zone because it's comfortable. And I encourage people to look beyond. And I had to do a lot of work on this because I was like, I am truly grateful for everything I have. And I know that I am far more blessed than I deserve to be. And I have received things that other people may not have and experiences. And so, but that doesn't mean that I can't keep striving.
Yeah.
And as I support my clients as we go through these life changes, so the kids leave home, you're always going to be a parent, but how you parent and the relationship with your children change. Or, like you mentioned, a job change, either by choice, like I want to do something different, or in this economy when there's downsizing and replacements, unexpected. Okay, you've lost a piece of identity. Like you linked yourself to that role or to that organization. So now what? And that's the more, that's the beyond. It's into those next chapters and how to make them the best that they can be and put fun in them and fulfillment and purpose.
Yeah. And you actually answered one of the questions that popped in my brain. I was thinking,
Yes.
a lot of people pray for, I wish I just had enough or good enough, because they're in such bad situations. And like you said, kind of all your life you hear that, right? It's good enough, and even be thankful for what you have. But I've always thought that, like you said, striving for something more. I mean, I know a lot of people live in comfort that way, and they, like we were talking earlier, like being risk averse, like they don't really like risk. They don't like stepping outside of their box.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that's kind of what you do, is you help them kind of maybe just put their toes out a little bit to maybe see what's past good enough, see what else could be out there, and maybe help find the passion. Do you kind of point them to find passion in their life?
Yeah, excellent question. So, my framework, the Joy Driven Life Blueprint, it's on the Certified High Performance Coaching program, which is a research-backed framework. So I can't take credit for creating it, and it covers clarity and influence and productivity and energy. So how do you show up every day? How do you take care of yourself? What energy do you bring, in with you? Like I could have shown up here and been like leaning back
Yeah.
or, but that's not me. And so it's really helping my clients reconnect to that inside. And if they're already connected, what's the next step? What's the next one step? The thing I loved, and another thing that made me so successful, I think, as a business analyst and as a coach, I don't have the answers. I was not going to tell people how to optimize their business processes. And I am not about to tell someone how to live, be present, engage in their life. Those answers come from them. I just
Yeah.
get to ask these amazing questions and then be there to help them kind of tease through the pieces to, we don't have just, you said, help them find their purpose. Yeah, some people have a life's purpose. Some people have a purpose of how they want to be as a parent, how they want to be as a employee or an entrepreneur, whatever their career mission is. And so as you go through life, your purpose can change, your priorities change, what's important to you changes. And so the first thing that we talk about is clarity. Where are you now, and what are you looking for in that next chapter? I just call them chapters.
And confidence, I think, has a big piece in that too. Like you said, kind of how you show up. If
Yes.
they don't feel comfortable or confident with themselves or their abilities, that they might not want to venture out a little bit, and find that next chapter or their clarity, kind of putting
Right.
themselves in a little bit of a prison, a mental prison, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That very much so. That goes tied into the in the second series. So I have 4 programs, and in the second program, it's the caged life, where you're like not venturing out.
Right.
Then there's the comfortable life where everything is good. And then there's the charged life where you're excited and motivated. And when you said confidence, the tagline for my business is taking action to get more from life. And, people want motivation. And
Right.
so when I'm motivated, I'll do those things. And you can't like wait for motivation because it's not going to show up.
Exactly.
What happens is you take action, a small action, like you do something, and that creates momentum. And the momentum then feeds the dopamine in the brain, which gives you the motivation because you want to keep doing the thing.
Right.
And so I have a just think, plan, act. I was really, really good at thinking. I could think my way, planning. I could get the spreadsheet and the schedule.
Right.
It was that action part where I would get stuck. And so think, plan, act. You got to do all three if you want to make those changes. And yeah, confidence comes with competence. And you gain competence by doing. You got to get in the pool to learn to swim.
Yeah.
You can't read a book, you can't watch a video and
Absolutely.
expect to swim.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife and I both, we've I mean, we're not elderly by any means, but we're kind of in that kind of stage of life. The mid, I call it my 3/4 life crisis, but I'd say it's more like a midlife crisis. But both of us, we transitioned completely when we moved away from Washington State, where we were living, and came to Arizona. We do totally different jobs. We do totally everything. Everything's different, but we have a much better, more fulfilled life right now. And I think looking back that we probably could have benefited from somebody like giving us guidance, that type of thing. Cause we just ripped the Band-Aid off and just dive head first, And so, where do you suggest people start when it comes to making big life decisions like that? Baby steps, or is it just jump into the deep end? How does your program work as far as that goes? Or is it person dependent as well? Yeah.
It partially is person dependent. Cause like you said, risk averse versus cautious. I find that my people are in, one of two places. They don't know. And so they're looking for something specific, in which case I would start small. Again, that clarity. And it's not so much just what did you like to do 10 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Or what did you like to do before the kids came? Because that's 18, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
You're a totally different person. I'm a different person than I was in December of 2025.
Right.
So, I'm like, we're changing all the time. So the questions aren't, yes, we want to pay attention to some of that thing from the past, but it's really about the moving forward. You got an open book, you can do whatever you want. And sometimes that's really daunting when you have so many options. And or the others, it's like this, like one of my clients was interested in this to kind of get things in perspective. So he had twin daughters that were graduating from high school. He was an entrepreneur. So he and two other business partners had broken off and started an organization. And then in our first session, he said, his words were, when I have time, my wife and I will do things, or I'll go to the gym and hang out, with my friends. And, so priority one was his job, then it was his daughters, and then when he had time. And through small little tweaks in his habits, in the 12 weeks, he totally flipped it around. Yeah. It was priority was getting to the gym, and he and his wife would work out sometimes not together, depending on what it was. They were cooking meals together. They'd planned their vacations for the year. The daughters were doing great. They were separate individuals. And then fourth was his business. Now, not like it wasn't important. He had less stress. And because the other things were in line, then he had the clarity to do what he needed to do in his business.
Right.
And I think that's another element of it, is being aligned with who you are. So who my client is. There's a lot of Facebook and Instagram and all the pretty pictures. And, growing up, it's like, you should do this, you should do this, you shouldn't do that, don't do that. So you get all of these external messages of what your life should be like.
Yeah.
And everybody has, like I said, that value, that inner calling, value, purpose, intention. And so it's reconnecting to that and then being confident to be that in this world.
Yeah. I mean, when somebody feels, stuck and, or really just isn't enjoying where they're at in life, or, their situation is just good enough.
Yeah.
I guess what's kind of one tip, like how do you get somebody unstuck and kind of point them into a direction of, a better them?
Excellent. Yeah. So I have 3 questions, and I invite people to, first of all, think about what are you pretending is fine.
Hmm.
So it's that, what are you looking, what things are you putting up on the outside that it might look fine, but it's really not. And this isn't something that you have to share, it's all internal. You can just write about it and journal about it. And then the second question is, what do I actually need right now? And for a lot of people, we're all really busy. What do you need right now? I need some fresh air. I just need to go outside. I mean, as simple as that sounds,
Yeah.
I'm one of these, I could just work and work. I get in a groove and I just want to keep going. And that clarity, I believe we attract things. So I think in my case, many, many years ago, 6 years ago, I was looking for something, and that coaching call just dropped into Facebook as something that I needed to see.
Yeah.
So the third question, I call it the 3-question clarity reset. So what are you pretending is fine? What do you really need right now? And then what is one thing, small thing, that you can do in the next 15 minutes? So in the example I said, I just go outside.
Yeah.
Or I stand up, or I've gone out to my husband and I'm like, I just need a hug.
Yeah.
And so you just start building those connections again, connecting with what's inside, where you're disconnected. What can you do to reconnect it in one little step? And that's the first thing. And then, you can just keep building on those. And that's part of through the process as well.
Yeah. So
with the program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very much a baby step, especially with, putting the time limit. Like, hey, what could you do? That could be a million things, but what could you do right now for yourself in this limited amount of time? So it definitely put it. I mean, that's the action, right? You can't sit and think about that. You got to do it. Within the next 15 minutes,
Correct.
You got to go do something. Yeah, that's great.
Yes, just something small.
Yeah.
And, so you were asking earlier about, is it I'll jump in, or is it baby steps?
Mm-hmm.
And depending on who you talk to, some people might say it's the big things. I like the little baby steps. But then going back to the story I told you at the beginning, where I'm like, okay, I need a safer place to live. I need a local job, and I want to find my future husband. Okay, those are 3 big things. But I took little steps to make those happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So those were 3 really big, clear things. But for someone who's overwhelmed and in everything, I like the little stuff first.
Yeah.
Because all the littles add up to big changes.
Absolutely. What do they say? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, right?
Exactly. Yes. And I think Martin Luther King Jr. said, you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the first 1 or 2 steps.
Yeah, very true. And a lot of people are kind of stuck in situations for whatever reason. Maybe it's monetary, or, just waiting for, they've put a lot of work into their life, but they can't retire for 2 more years, right? They're on a 2-year plan or something, but they're feeling very overwhelmed right now. But they can't escape. Is there kind of one thing that most people are pretty receptive to, and kind of like settling nerves a little bit, to continue working in a stressful environment when you have a goal in mind or a finish line, kind of to pull the plug? Something just to kind of keep you moving, I guess, and work towards those little goals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really looking at what I can control. So when I was in, different situations, different jobs, different things. So for many years, while I was building my coaching business, I was doing both. I was in corporate and I was a coach mornings, evenings, and weekends. And, for someone who's stuck, I even, helped my husband through this in one of his organizations. You can't change what people are going to do. You can't change their mind. However, I can show up and show empathy. I can show caring. I can, try and understand the other person's perspective as I'm engaging with people. If it's in the job and, it is truly just a nightmare, what can you do outside? Make sure, I highly recommend, you're doing some movement, moving the blood through and releasing the cortisol and all of those sorts of things. Do your job, but really focus on those things that you can control. And it's not always easy, and I think another thing that I've received really good feedback on is I'm a really good listener. And sometimes to have someone who's not just it'll get better, you're okay.
Yeah.
I am that person. I will listen, and I want to challenge them. I'm like, so what can you do the next time you have a conversation with this person and you're anticipating it's going to be a challenge at work? What are some things we can do to prepare you? And we can totally do that in one of our sessions, and they can prepare what they can do. And then if the person responds in this way, you have your response. If they respond a different way, you can kind of architect everything and prepare so that you are the best version of yourself. Yeah. And then what happens externally,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's all sorts of tools and little things like that, which are really, really helpful.
Yeah. That's kind of one of the things you mentioned there is kind of the gratitude. I know that's something that I struggle with a lot, but I'm trying to get better at that, but to just, hey, just realize, not to say it's good enough, but to say, this is really good, to realize that it isn't just good enough. Sometimes what you have is amazing. You just have to actually recognize it too. So maybe to get out of the mindset of, why am I here? Maybe I'm supposed to be doing something else. Especially in a big transition, like I said, my wife and I, because we've thought about that a lot. We've really changed a lot of what we've done, and we're doing something totally different. And we question that all the time. Is this something that we're where we really should be in our lives, or what we should be doing? But we've had to sit down a lot and just be like, you know what, actually everything's great. because it's been nothing but better since we've moved and made the transition, but sometimes you kind of look back at your old life and realize, kind of what you had. Most of it's usually money, but then you think happiness, and I've never been one to do something for money. I would much rather prefer to be happy in what I'm doing and be more fulfilled. So I think that's kind of one thing too, is just that gratitude, forcing yourself to realize kind of how good you have it. And one of the things you mentioned, maybe getting down, I forget exactly what you said, but it made me think about a book that I'm reading right now. And it's one of the best books I've read in a long time, but it's called The Power of Mattering. I'll show it to you.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
I don't have it in front of me right here, but the guy's name is Zach Mercurio. I think I pronounced it right. But that's kind of how he talks about when you're leading people, and a lot of times we, as humans, we see the negative. The negative has a much greater percentage to stick in your brain. When one of your people just happens to be late, 1 week, and then it happens again a month, but they've never been late in 20 years. You think, oh, that guy's late all the time. But to reset your mind and how you think about it, and to focus more on positive things and traits of people instead of something they just happen to do because they made a mistake. So I think that kind of goes along a lot with what you were talking about.
Yeah, and it takes work. It's if there was an easy resolution to all of these things, then everybody would be happy and fulfilled. I totally agree. And having a fulfilled life rather than functioning. A lot of Many of the women that I've connected with through this process, are going through the motions. They're functioning. They got all of these things and they get it all done. But again, it's that disconnected, like what lights them up, what brings them spark, what, when you lose track of time and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
100%.
And then that, intentionality, I think a lot of people don't really live lives of intentionality, intentional lives. I think that is a big part of it, but I don't know, maybe talk about that a little bit too, what bringing some intention to your life and your routine can really do for someone.
Yes. You ask great questions. This is so good. It's like you've planned this whole thing. Yeah, intention. And life is changeable. There's like the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And, if you have this belief that this is it and nothing's ever going to change, things won't. Because again, you won't be taking the action if you're projecting so far forward and you want the outcome to be a blue box with a gold ribbon and red hearts on it, and I give you a paper bag, well, then all bets are off. But if the thing that's inside both of those is exactly what you were looking for, you could say yes or no. And so the intention part is, what are you striving for? What matters to me, or what matters to my client? And, back in those messages of this is good enough, or be happy with what you have, some people have stopped asking themselves that question. What matters? What makes me happy? And I was very fortunate when I made a career change because an organization was downsizing. So it was one of those forced ones. I hired a career coach, and he had me lay out a spreadsheet, which I loved, like 73 items, what I wanted from my next career or my next job. And I was like, I didn't even realize I could do that. But it helped me to align my choices. And I declined jobs that were going to pay me really good money because they didn't line up with what mattered to me in how I was spending my days. And so the same sort of thing. I think one of the most awesome things about this time in our lives and, middle age or empty nesters or career transitions or whatever, I'm in the upper 50s, is we can choose. We're not stuck unless we choose to stay stuck. And gaining clarity is a choice.
Yeah.
You have to be able to kind of step back a little bit and, well, I've done this for the last 12 years. And what if? Right. What if this next thing is totally amazing? What if you take these steps and it turns out far greater than you had ever imagined?
Mm-hmm.
So half full, half empty. How do you want to look at your glass, I guess?
Yeah.
And these transitions in this next chapter isn't about throwing away everything you've done in the past. When I turned 50, I decided I'm starting over. So I'm now in my second half 50, which makes me 8 years old. So I am playful, like an 8-year-old, pushing my independence, but I've also got 58 years of life experience. And so I get to pick and choose which things do I want to keep, which things do I want to pull forward, and which things do I want to let go.
Yeah.
They just don't serve me anymore. And we only get one life. So let's design it. That's the other thing I like to say. We're designing our lives.
Yeah. I mean, good for you to know what you were looking for. And I can see how, somebody helping people guide their lives to turning down something that might not be for them just because of money, but to be more fulfilled, and it is all an attitude, yellow bleachers can help you get up to the top, right? But, there's not always a golden staircase. You would choose the golden staircase over the yellow bleachers because
Yes.
it's all about attitude, but also, this is what I want, because anybody can climb the ladder, but you can just be miserable doing that too. So, take the road that is going to lead you where you want to be, or the things, like you said, you had a list of 70 something things. I mean, that's great to have that sort of clarity, like you were talking about, of no, that's not right for me, and then choose what it is that is right, and that's always going to lead to a little bit more fulfillment, which is always better than money. in my
it was
mind.
Really scary. it's like, what am I doing? And so there comes trust and faith in what we do. But again, it's you climb something and you've attained something, but if it's not fulfilling, there's still going to be that missing or that disconnection.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you, put it in the little intro for you, the next chapter with purpose, clarity, and contagious fun. I mean, where does fun play a part? What role does that play in it, and why is that important?
Fun is absolutely important. Again, like I said, I'm 8 years old now. So just a short story, like growing up, I was in a Norwegian German household and emotions were not expressed, except happy. And so I learned to be happy.
Even when you're not? Whether
I'm crying or screaming on the inside.
Okay.
And so that song, Don't Worry, Be Happy, I didn't like it. And I learned, through I'm a human. I have all emotions. There's not bad emotions or good emotions. It's an emotion. And then feeling is what you attach to them. So my body feels excitement, and that I can say it's scary, or I can be, holy, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I discovered that was missing from my life was play and having fun. And so, like I said, in my workshops, when I was a consultant, I had toys, we had Play-Doh, I had Legos, people would be building things, because I read that when people's hands were busy, their brains would actually engage more in the conversation and they'd be more creative. That's why I started. But then it was just fun. And now I have Baby Yoda. I'm a Baby Yoda fan. I have one that travels with me. So I am the woman walking through the airport with a Baby Yoda. And people be like, is that for your grandchild or your child? It's like, nope, it's just for me. And I had a big burly Harley motorcycle vested man in an airport come up to me. He's like, ma'am, why are you carrying that doll? I said, because it makes me happy. And he goes, that's a good answer.
He's like, I got mine right here.
And so, yeah, I find play reconnecting with awe and wonder. Kids, if you look at kids, toddlers, they just are exploring everything. And I got my first pet 4 years ago. I have a beautiful little kitty named Maggie May.
Nice.
And she's like a toddler. Like, it's the same house, but she finds something that's fascinating. And I just want to know what all that is. And so, again, in all this busyness, reconnect to the present moment and find something and just go, how does that work?
Yeah.
What made that?
Yeah. Curiosity. Curiosity is fun.
Just getting really curious with, rather than assuming, I know how this works and all that sort of stuff. I just go into that sense of awe sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I assumed fun was probably pretty important to you. One of the first things you mentioned about your husband, was that he still makes me laugh.
Every single day,
which is good. And I think that's important. And one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you have a Facebook group for empty nesters. So maybe tell us a little bit about that, but also I can imagine that, having fun with your spouse and, humor probably plays a big part in, connecting once there's no one else around.
Yes. And sometimes I think we're laughing at things that if people were looking at a camera would not understand at all why things are funny.
Yeah.
So that's, he's definitely my best friend, and we do laugh out loud at least once a day, every day for 23 years.
It's very good.
25. We've been together about 25. Yeah. So my Facebook group name is changing. It's Beyond the Good Life is what it currently is right now as of this recording date. But I had to explain it and people couldn't find it. So I'm changing it to Empty Nesters Design Your Next Chapter with clarity, confidence, and community. And it's that space because I've been reading in different Facebook groups. I read articles where people feel disconnected. The children leave home and the son doesn't respond to texts anymore. And what am I supposed to do? And I feel sad. And it's the space to do that reconnection, figure out what is it you're missing. Yes, I know you miss your son or your daughter or your children, however many you have. It's deeper than that. Is it the going to the soccer games, the soccer moms and dads, or softball or baseball or whatever that is? Can you still go when you don't have a kid playing?
Yeah.
Is it missing the hanging out with the adults at the baseball games? Can you hang out with them at the baseball games or do something else? And so it's just different tools. I go live every week with a little information. We do some journaling prompts. We share ideas. And so I just want to create this community where they don't feel alone, and also create social learning. Because being in a group, someone might say something and it sparks an idea that I had that I'd never thought of before. It was like, because I pulled something out and then you talk to this person, and then you help a third person and they go off and do something. And so then there's more ideas, there's more sharing and all of that sort of stuff. So it's not just me.
Yeah, a bit of a community inside there. Yeah. And forgive me, I don't want to bring it up if it's something you don't want to talk about, but I know, Empty Nesters, and you had mentioned that you guys had lost your son. I'm assuming some of those maybe, techniques to deal with loss, maybe some of that wrapped into that as well. I'm assuming
Certainly.
You've learned a lot throughout that process of grieving and, no longer having your son in the house, but, not necessarily by your choosing or, so, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately, his biological mother had some drug and alcohol issues. And so there was the tendencies, and then he had some challenges himself, and was making, really great progress. I worried about him all the time. And my husband could see the signs before I could. So again, I think I was putting a little blinders on, trying to see things more positive because that's my nature. And, it was more when we get the call, not if. And so we got the call that he had passed away, and it was drug related. Not by his choice. The person who spiked it is now in prison, so that's good. And yet it taught me, I have never birthed children. So I think God didn't give me enough patience to handle the birth to 3-year-old stage. I got mine when they were 6. So
yeah, I think everybody questions if they're strong enough for that. But we have 3.
So I was like,
we have 3 boys. So yeah, I know.
Oh,
it well.
3 boys.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Yes.
I grew up with all sisters, so having boys is like, what's happening? I don't even know what's going on in this place.
And your wife is like, wait, what?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. But I learned a lot so when my husband said, we weren't going to have any children, I was like, oh, that was kind of a bummer. And what I realized was that I wanted to have a positive impact in children's lives.
Yeah.
And so I had 2 nephews. I'm going to be the aunt that they know. I had an impact in my children's lives. They said, thank you. When I cooked dinner, they said, thank you.
Yeah.
When I folded the laundry, I'm like, when I was growing up, I never said thank you to my mom for cooking dinner. when I visit as an adult, I did. Um, and, I always was wondering, as a step parent, my husband did an excellent job raising them prior to us becoming a family.
Mm-hmm.
And so they never were you're not my mom. You don't have to listen to you. I mean, they
Right.
always were very respectful, other than normal teenage stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but when we lost him at his funeral or at his wake, I did not realize my heart could literally feel like it was breaking to someone that I hadn't given birth to. Like, he was not biologically a part of me at all.
Mm.
And I was just like, wow. And so, because I've known people who have lost children, the infants and, different tragedies. And I was like, I wonder if I can relate. And I believe I can now.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, in our family, when we greet each other, you give them a hug and you say, I love you. And when you part ways, you give them a hug and you say, I love you.
Yeah.
And so I know that the last thing I said to my son, the last time I saw him, I gave him a hug, and the last words he heard was, I love you.
Yeah.
So whenever that call had come, it took me a long time to say this, that I miss him terribly. We wish he was here. My husband and I, every once in a while, be like, man, he would love this and he would be so into this.
Right.
And he's in a way better place.
Yeah.
We don't ever have to get the call now.
Yeah.
He's not struggling or suffering, which caused him to turn to the drugs in the first place. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I mean, people are put in our lives for a reason, I believe. There's no coincidences there. So,
Right.
and I'm sure that you're changing people's lives using some of the techniques, that you learned from him, and before and after his death. So, yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it's special, and you were very intentional, it sounds like, in your relationship with him too. So, I'm sure that meant a lot to him. So, yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One of the things, or a few things actually, that I wrote down from your website that I thought were pretty special. I was looking at it here. Success without peace isn't the goal. I think we talked about that quite a bit. Just kind of being fulfilled is a lot more important than just climbing the ladder.
Yes, and living in that alignment. I mean, I hope one day to stand before God, and I want to have used all the gifts. I want to get up there with nothing, because I don't want him to look at me and go, Connie, I gave you this.
Yeah.
And you didn't do anything with it. You didn't share it. You didn't challenge it. You didn't do anything, So yeah, it's intention. And I'm honest. I want the best for people. And so that's also where the peace comes from. I want to be able to look myself in the mirror. I want to be able to look at my God someday and go, I did the best I could. I'm not perfect by any means.
Yeah, who is? Right.
And I want to be, ethical, moral, faithful, and at peace.
Yeah. And that's tough. Like you said, so you get to see God one day and he's like, I gave you all this stuff and you did nothing with it. I think that's one thing. It's tough that you're helping people with, is to find that clarity, because sometimes you're given a lot of gifts. Things are put right in front of you, but you don't recognize them for what they are at the time. So I think that's important to kind of, to have that clarity, to even know when you're, when you are being given a gift that could change your life.
And sometimes the gift might not be a positive thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so kind of have you kind of look at it in a different frame of reference as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, not all gifts, come wrapped in a bow, in a bow. Sometimes you get it in that paper bag, like you said.
Paper bag.
But it's what's inside that matters.
Right.
So
exactly. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing here that you had, big transitions deserve intentional support. And, I think you've done a great job of kind of explaining what that is, and, being intentional when you do make, I guess I would say maybe not only when you make big transitions, but just being intentional in all aspects of your life, even with your family, making sure that you have fun, that contagious fun, and you're laughing every day. Just, I think you had mentioned one of your clients, just putting his priorities in the right place, being intentional about that. And I'd be willing to bet that even though his business went a little further down on the list, it probably produces more results than it did previously.
Yeah, because he's showing up, he's taking care of his health. Yeah. He's got that strong relationship, and the high performance definition is, it's long-term success without compromising your relationships and your well-being.
Yeah.
Because relationships are important. And, even with the AI and all the stuff that's going on in this world, you still need a relationship with people. You're going to encounter people where we can't survive just by ourselves.
It's a different world right now. Like you said, the AI and just that communication and intentionality of just communicating and actually, that face to face. I'm not a big fan of all this AI stuff going on. I mean, it has its purpose, it has its uses.
It has its purpose.
But I think when it tries to replace that human connection, I think that's the wrong path. So
I agree.
Yeah. Man, well, what a great job that you have. You get to.
It is a great job. Yeah. Yes, it is.
I mean, you get to change people's lives all the time and kind of steer them in the right direction. So, that's got to be very fulfilling for yourself. So I'm glad that you found that clarity, in your own life to help change the lives of others. So ConnieCotter.com, right? ConnieCotter.com is your website. Is that the best place for people to follow you, learn more about you, connect with you? Or, I'm assuming you have social media as well.
Yep. So ConnieCotter.com is overview of everything, a little bit about me, about my programs. I'm also on Facebook, Connie Cotter, and I have the Facebook group. Like I said, right now it's called Beyond the Good Life. It's going to be the same group. I think the handle's going to stay the same. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram.
Great.
And for your listeners, I have a gift if they would like to cultivate their sense of wonder and start looking at things with that fresh eye. Mm-hmm. I've got 13 ways to cultivate that sense of wonder. And if they go to ConnieCotter.com, that's COTTER.com/wonder, WONDER, you can get that.
Excellent. Well, I'll link everything, including that free gift, 13 ways to cultivate your sense of wonder. I'll make sure that all of that is linked in the show notes. So anybody listening, you want to, explore a little bit, find out more about Connie and connect with her, especially for, business professionals. LinkedIn, I'm assuming you said LinkedIn. I know that's like the place I go to for mostly professional content. So a lot of people on there I'm sure would love to connect with you. So yeah, fantastic, Connie. And then one other quote that I found on your website, and we talked about this quite a bit, but it says, "Build a life that feels aligned, not just accomplished." I can tell just from our conversation that you're not only committed to helping others kind of get alignment, but you found that alignment during your own transition, for yourself, and that I guess really like kind of your true north and where you're supposed to be going, like which path you're leading down. And I can tell that you really care for others and have a strong desire to see other people succeed and to kind of find their own way in this crazy thing that we call life. It is an adventure, and that's really what this show is all about. It's just sharing stories of people like you who are doing good for other people. So I thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, and you too. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, you as well. And we'll stay connected. I'll make sure that I'm connected with you on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome.
Great. Thanks so much, Connie. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Connie Cotter. I hope she's inspired you to think about what success with peace could look like in your life and spark some thoughts about getting intentional support for your life's big transitions. Now go out there and build a life that feels aligned, not just accomplished. If you need any help on that journey, make sure you connect with Connie at conniecotter.com and follow her on social media. You can also check out conniecotter.com/wonder to get your free gift for our listeners, Connie's 13 ways to cultivate your sense of wonder. All the links you need are posted in the show notes. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the Stranger Conversations podcast at your favorite listening platform, as well as on social media at stranger.convo.pod, so you don't miss out on the conversations to come. While you're listening, take a minute to give us a 5-star review. It's a great way for us to grow the show and to reach more people. If you'd like to be the next guest on the Stranger Conversations podcast, visit strangerconversationspodcast.com. Sign up and we'll share your story together. I want to take a minute to thank today's sponsor, Hammer Defense. Hammer Defense makes the world's first go-anywhere self-defense cell phone case, perfect for protecting both you and your phone. Learn more at hammerdefenseproducts.com, linked in the show notes. Make sure they know I sent you by using code TAYAZ12 at checkout. You'll also receive 10% off and free shipping on your next order. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for more episodes to come. I'm Tay Jones, and we'll chat later.